Thank you so much, buddy. Sorry about that. Okay, bye-bye. Take care of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so far.
For thousands of years, elders and knowledge keepers have used stories to educate future generations. Stories and words can help heal our hearts and make Mother Earth a better place for all people. This is Healing Hearts.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tracy Koga, and welcome to Healing Hearts. How many times have you heard the phrase, "We're all in this together"? Certainly, it's not true when it comes to COVID-19, the pandemic, and vaccines. And it certainly isn't true when it comes to mental health. So tonight we're going to have a very important conversation to hear about the challenges faced by Indigenous and newcomer communities. So let's begin Healing Hearts. Hello and welcome to all of our special guests. I want to give a big welcome to Mariko in Ottawa, Krishna, Charlene, and Jonathan. Thank you so much, everybody. And I know that you're sacrificing a lot because the Jets are playing Game 1 in Series 2. So, and that is a whole breath of fresh air for mental health. And tonight we are definitely going to talk about mental health. And also, we can't be remiss on the tragedy that has happened in Kamloops and even in the sports arena with Ethan Bear, and this all delves heavily into mental health. But I want to go to our first two special guests that are actually coming out, telling their story about living with mental health issues. So I am going to go to my beautiful friend in Ottawa, Mariko Sumi. It's so good to see you. We've had the opportunity to have a few chats, and I wanted you to be on this show because you expressed great interest. And I'm so happy about it because this is a place to share and also be a safe place for you to tell your story. And this will only help so many more people. So, Mariko, maybe talk about your personal experience living with autism as a Japanese Canadian.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, I'm a Japanese Canadian born from my mom's French Canadian. My dad's Japanese immigrant from Japan. This part that was a child, a newborn child, was very energetic, enthusiastic. What they noticed on my first day of school in kindergarten one, because in Ontario we have two kindergarten classes. And on my first class, my teacher, my parents, even my classmates, they noticed that I have some particularities as a child compared to those of my age group, such as I couldn't talk, I couldn't interact with other people, I couldn't follow a regular class correctly as well. So I had to get my first diagnostic at the Children's Hospital in my city in Ottawa. And I got my first diagnostic at 4 years old of autism. Back then, it was only autism shortly. As like you know the definition that you see in the movie Raymond with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. It was an autism spectrum disorder back then. So I had to change school for being in a special needs class. It was very difficult because I had to change school because that area, there's so many school closing. Just to let you know, I went to a French school. Yeah, there's so many school closing in this area, this Ottawa. And I've been to bullying and racism, discrimination to my cultural heritage. For example, in grade school, because as a child, I grew up with Japanese food and Japanese TV show, like a popular TV show called Okasan Toy Show. I grew up with the music that play on the show. There's some animation series that play on TV. and it was hard for me to share my own interest, my common interest with my classmates, because most of them were white, like 96% white in my class. So I was the only Asian person in my classmates that were more familiar compared to me than with American pop culture, such as Backstreet Boys. And I was very lonely. Same in high school, it was very difficult. Wasn't the typical 2000 girly girl that didn't. I was very culturally different from others. I didn't have the common interests nor the same opinions, the same point of view of these people. But since even grade school, because I noticed one other particularity compared to most my friends were severe autistic. I wasn't that severe. I could concentrate, like I could do my own thing. I could read, I could write, I could even type my own computer as well. So they always done my first. Oh yeah, after kindergarten, I had to skip my I had the year after because of my dynasty. I had to be special needs class in Ottawa, and when they realized that I was doing better compared to my classmates, and I was done half year in the special needs class. I mean, when my schedule is half-time special needs class and half-time regular class with people who were 1 year younger than me, but I didn't like it. I want to be normal like others. I want to follow regular class like others. I don't want to be labeled autistic and the word stupid, retarded, like being off. I don't want to be that doesn't happen from Raymond. So I mask my own disability to be like a normal person. So it's always been like that during my grade school years, my high school years, but it was difficult. But the positive thing is I have two hobbies I realized is drawing and playing music, the piano that I start playing at the age of 7. That helps me to fight my own loneliness. But I was like a superhero. Like most anime characters are like Naruto is always like, I want to be like a super ninja ever. Even despite it, he wants to voice restrain despite people are saying about people say about him. I was like him. There's people like I have my own dream, like the ABBA song. No, I have a dream. But for me, there's always good thing for everyone. There's always a dream for everyone. My only dream was going to university. Sure, nothing else. I was young and my dream is to go to university. Some people, including some of my family members and my special needs teacher, were like, Mariko will never used to underestimate me, such as Mariko will never go to university. Mariko will never finish high school. Mariko will never have friends, etc., etc. But never listen to them. I was like, I have a dream. I will do no matter people say about me. So in high school I study a lot because I want to get better mark for getting accept at university. And surprise, I finished my high school in June 2009, and I got accepted at University of Ottawa. But my high school friend didn't understand either the cultural restriction that I live at home. But I never give up because I found help that I really need, like therapy, counseling, and also before that, I decided to get my another diagnostic. It's Asperger's syndrome mixed with deficient attention. But they didn't really care. I still keeping my autism marks to follow my dreams. And despite that, I changed programs a couple of times at University of Ottawa. I succeeded graduate of physics major, mathematics minor. I know it's pretty intense, but because I always I want a career that combines math, arts, and science. but I always change a lot of options. But who cares? We always change IDs. If one option doesn't work, we'll move on to another option. When I make research, I said I'll just go with data analysis. And after my graduation, well, I got help from my employment consultant. After a couple on-site jobs, I've also but despite of the bullying that happened as a young adult in my 20s, like backstabbing, cyberbullying, etc. But my therapy always support me, always get help, because for me, they also taught me to in life is over the straight line. You have to move on. That's what I did. And during my on-site job at Costco, like serving food and in company called CDS, if you guys are familiar. So I went to a job fair for disabled people. There's one, the department called Employment Social Development, the only government department there. And I just get them my resume for any opportunity data analysis. And finally, I got the job because my name was in the pool for 2 years internship. It's a 2 years internship program for disabled employees. And then the great news is I just got another permanent position, government. At public service. Bobby starting soon. Thank you very much. At this transition process. What that means is never give a dream, stay positive and patient. Now these days, what I really like is one of my counselors taught me that a lot of geniuses that might be autistic, are Mustard and Newton, and even Bill Gates, Einstein. They were all great geniuses. And they might be Asperger's autistic. Now these days is now it's called it's not even autism spectrum disorder. Now there's two type of people: neurodivergent, like normal; divergent, like people have disability. These days, it took me forever, like long time, to remove my mask. I don't label myself autistic anymore, more this diverse person. I'm very proud when I look back to my accomplishment, I'm very proud of where I came from, what I've been through. Even I've been through a lot of things, a lot of challenges. They helped me to grow up as a person, as like I am. Because all these bad experiences, I consider them as a good learning experiences. So, and then, and also there's also a lot of great founders like Steve Jobs, Richard Branson from Virgin. They were all, despite of they were rich and they're very intelligent, they're all disabled people. And one of them, for our fellow founder Kinko, now he's got bought by FedEx. He once said, "I got a lot of learning issues at school, but that is a good thing. That's the good thing is the more you keep being persevering, the more you accomplish your dream." The good message is, although I wasn't the top valedictorian, I wasn't being released, but it doesn't really matter to me because all the experiences I gained, volunteers at work, and good learning experiences helped me to accomplish my own dreams, like getting career, getting career in my field, which is data analysis, with one university degree. So, and now these days I'm working government, and also, adversity also, like before high school and university, I'm still involving with the Ottawa Japanese Community Association. I became just a board member last year, and with the Japanese Canadian young leaders, and also, and I still keeping drawing, because drawing really helped me to express my own feelings. And what is fantastic at Ottawa, at University of Ottawa, I start to evolve as an illustrator. And they really love so much for newspaper. They really love so much my art. I was only the first illustrator. They love so much my art that they decide to hire more illustrators because of me.
So you're a trailblazer. Oh, Mariko, I mean, this is really, I mean, you should be an inspiration to everyone and to give, you know, hope and light and everything like that. I mean, that is such a wonderful story, and I'm so happy that you could tell it, because stories like that need to be told. And we will definitely come back to you and ask you questions, because I would like to see how you came over adversity and bullying and everything like that, because there is definitely a lot of negativity when you're different, regardless of what you look like or if you have a mental health issue. But I'm going to go now to Krishna. And Krishna, we have just recently met too. And again, your story is, it does definitely have a happy ending, but you know, I wanted you to come on and share your story and to shed light on schizophrenia.
Okay, so this is a tough one, because many people don't understand, I would say, what schizophrenia is. So there's many different types that are out there, different variants. So I would say with mine, it was more a paranoid, the paranoid type, where I'd be kind of like a reclusive person. But to begin with, I was, when I was a younger person, I was a very high level athlete. I won a bodybuilding championship at 20, which has never even been since done. Within a couple of years after, I developed the schizophrenia. And all I know is I woke up one day, the day before I was fine, and I was just afraid of everything. I heard strange noises. Everything was off. I knew something was wrong, and it continued for quite a long time after, to a point where I didn't want to leave my house. And then, of course, you know, after enough time being recluse like that, you go to see a doctor, and the doctor diagnosed me with schizophrenia. My body weight had doubled from competition weight of about 160 pounds to 315. And it wasn't, it really only took about 5 years for that to happen. So I went from having the best body in the province to not that body image is the most important thing. I mean, I've come through life understanding that now, but that was like my goal, to be a professional bodybuilder. And then, so my body image kind of went right opposite to that. So my waist got up to like a 60-inch waist. When I would compete, it was 25. So, and I have a pretty broad shoulder widths. So it was very, very depressing to kind of put all that work into something and then have it turn around that way. Over time, though, I started to learn how to deal with the illness a little bit better each day. It took maybe a wake-up call where, because the medicines that they give you, they're tranquilizers. And when they tranquilize you, it's very difficult to exercise. But it got to a point where my health took a very bad hit. I had diabetes from the medication at a blood sugar level of 20, sometimes 22, 23. It was always around the 20s. So that's a high risk of stroke and heart attack. The doctor told me, you likely will live maybe 2 more months. This is in 2012. And I was only about, I think, 35, 36. So at first I didn't really care. I didn't really like having the schizophrenia. I was feeling kind of hopeless. And then a new medicine came out that was experimental. And yeah, the medicine kind of gave me some hope. It took away the tranquilizing part, and it allowed me to, like, it still put weight on, but it allowed me to have my motivation. So the first day that I took it, I literally walked outside for the first time, and it was since about 22. Like, I would go outside to go to my doctors, and you know, the odd errand that I would have to run, but most of the time I just stayed in the house. Like, I didn't want to go anywhere. I was wearing a 5XL shirt, and I didn't feel good. I mean, you can't wear like a nice t-shirt when you're that heavy. It's basically whatever's there, and it's almost like you're buying drapes. So it was very it was one of those things where I didn't want to be out in public that much. I was very self-conscious, but I just started going through the walking every day. The first walk was 9.5 minutes. And then lo and behold, by the end of the month, I thought I would just up it a minute or two every day. And within, 2 weeks, I started getting a little bit of fitness level in there where I could increase it another 10, 15 minutes at a time. So by the end of the first month, I lost 30 pounds. And it was due to, my background in bodybuilding. I understood how to eat properly. And, I kind of went back to that kind of diet. And I just did the walking. And my walking was up to about 2 hours. And then within 6 months, my walking got up to a ridiculous amount, like 8 hours a day. So that was a little excessive to be outside. Yeah, I lost all the weight that way, but I looked like a version of myself, but just deflated. So I realized, okay, I got to get to the gym at some point and work out. So because my skin and everything was all hanging, and I thought, well, maybe I could start lifting weights, but I was very shy to get back in a weight room because that's where I was kind of like dominant in that area. And I was very scared to go back and do that. So eventually I get these surgeries to remove the skin. So and there's a lot in the like I'm making a documentary about that talks about this story and a few other people's stories who deal with schizophrenia and what it actually means, what it felt like, what the hallucinations were, and things like that. So it'll go more into it in that documentary called Range of Emotion. I got the shirt here. So it'll go more into that. But long story short, I go through these operations. They cut all the extra skin off around my waist, so it's like a belt around there, almost my chest from here, from right here, all the way to the back of my body. So they had to cut this huge flap off there and then put the nipples back on, which is quite a operation to go through. And then when I saw what my body kind of looked like after that, I was like, I still kind of have this bodybuilding frame there. I still had some muscles because I started doing weights. And then in a couple of years, I ended up naturally. I did it natural because I was just really concerned about my health at the time. And I went into the bodybuilding show just to see what would happen. And I mean, I had to train really hard because at this point I'm like 38. So I hadn't done a show since 20. So that's an 18-year gap. And I ended up beating everybody in my class. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, it was very scary because I have schizophrenia. And although I was doing a lot better with it because I was gaining confidence because of, here I am accomplishing one goal, accomplishing another goal, getting out the comfort zone, meeting people in the gym, kind of establishing a life for myself. So even though I was able to do that, getting on stage was very, very scary. I almost backed up before I stepped on stage. But I thought, you know what, you've come this far, like, why not you're not going to die. You're just going to be scared up there. So I went up there, did that, ended up winning my category I was in. And I honestly really could, thank you. I really couldn't, honestly didn't expect that. I didn't expect after all those years to have anything left in the tank like that. It was a very low level show. It was to qualify for like the bigger one. So I went in the bigger one after and I got my clock cleaned. So it was a wake up call. I wasn't as good as I thought. My body fat was good, but I got beat bad. But it made me determined. It made me determined, I remember after that second show, I was like, whoa, that wasn't very good. And that one thing I noticed was that the anxiety and everything that I felt the first show, it was there for a week, but this time it was only there for like a day. So I felt like I was on stage still for a day after the show, which is a huge improvement actually. So to have that kind of anxiety, I know now that it's going to go away. It's not going to be there all week. So I thought, you know what, like I went to Burger King. And so here's a little story here. I went to Burger King for one of my cheat meals that I had that week. And there was a girl there working at Burger King. And I'm on a disability. So at that time, I still hadn't been working since, around 2000. So that's 2016. So that's like 16 years of not and I was really thinking about going back to work. But when I saw this girl with the Down syndrome working removing the trays, and she was bawling. She was in a lot of pain from the overload of people being like the social, they call that sensory overload. And I understood too, because I could feel that too. And I felt her, I could feel the pain she had, but she's still pushing so hard. So this person was so strong. I thought, they're stronger than me. Like, it inspired me to go within that year and get a job at a Good Life where I worked overnight. And so there was a process of getting adjusted to working again and learning how to talk to people. Because you can imagine if you're mentally ill and you lock yourself away for, like 16, 17 years, you're socially going to be very incapable of interacting with people very well. So lucky for me, when I was at the wellness, well, we're backing up a few years here. At the wellness center, I met a fellow he was an older fellow, but he was the kind of person just talked to everyone. He was so kind, and he would talk to the janitor. He was just so social. And I got to know him, and I started working out with him. And I learned how to socialize through this fellow. So, I mean, without his help, honestly, I really don't think I could have accomplished the social part. So that to me, losing the ability to socialize with people and to explain to them how you feel, how you're thinking, and not to have it all get taken the wrong way or whatever it is, that's a huge fear for somebody who's kind of recluse themselves from society. And without that person, I really honestly, I don't think there'd be no documentary, there'd be no huge bodybuilding comeback. It's just like this. His name is David Kinsella. I hope he's watching right now, and if he is, like, I still talk to the fellow, and like the nicest guy that you'll ever meet. So that's, I mean, there's a lot more to say, but I want to leave a little bit there for everyone else. Sorry for going on.
No,
So you can catch the Range of Emotion documentary
yes.
probably soon.
Yes, probably soon. So yeah, I know that whole story is there, and I got a few questions too to ask you,
Sure.
Chris, like when we come back. But I want to share now Jonathan's story, Jonathan Meikle, and for some he might look, familiar. TED Talks. I googled you.
Oh, I know you.
Thank you, Charlene.
I know you.
Bonjour. My name is Johnny, and I'm from Norrie House Cree Nation. That's where I was born and raised. My father was Scottish Irish, and my mother was OG Cree from Garden Hill, Island Lake. But I grew up in Norrie House, otherwise known as Kiniseo-Sipi, 8 hours north of Winnipeg. I'm also the founder of the organization Strengthen the Circle, which is a movement built in response to the prevalence of untreated trauma in Indigenous communities that is the result of discriminatory policies imposed by the Canadian government. Our mission is to provide programming, primarily, however, not exclusively, to Indigenous men who've experienced involvement in the criminal justice system. So I'll go into a little bit about my story of what brought me to founding this organization. I, again, grew up in Norrie House, very structured home, very rigid in the beginning years. My father later relapsed with alcohol, and that was around my teen years. And at that time, I had a lot of anger, and I was getting into a lot of fights. I eventually was introduced to the military through the Bold Eagle program in Wainwright, Alberta, at 16 years old. I later joined the regular forces at 17, so I dropped out of high school and signed my life away to the military for a while. And I was going to do the responsible thing and wait till I was 18 and graduated from high school, but I slipped the application in thinking it would take some time. Within 2 weeks, I was in Saint Jean, Quebec, doing my basic training. I always struggled with identity growing up, having a mixed, coming from a mixed background. And in the military, I definitely struggled with that. I had a couple of racist altercations, which really affected me how I interacted with others in the future. I kind of created these biases, and with my background growing up, I was prone to violent tendencies. I got in a lot of fist fights, and so I didn't create the best name for myself in the beginning of my short time in the military. I ended up deploying. Sorry, I'll go back. I ended up graduating my battle school program 2 days before my 18th birthday, so still 17 technically, and youngest in the unit. I ended up deploying to Afghanistan at the age of 20 for a 7-month tour. I ultimately did 6 years in the military. Met a lot of great people. Still have a lot of people that I check in on that I would call brothers. A lot of amazing people that would, really give their shirt off their back for me. And I ended up releasing in 2012. My mental health had gone down. I had this huge void inside of me, like something was just missing. And I always struggled with alcohol right from my teenage years. I was a problematic drinker, got into a lot of trouble. And I was later diagnosed with major depressive disorder with traits of PTSD and alcoholism. I ended up moving back to up north for a while, which at first was a huge weight off my shoulders. And however, I got involved in drug dealing, and I got heavily involved with cocaine, and went down that path with the lifestyle that comes with it. It wasn't my first time having involvement in the criminal justice system, but in 2017, I had 4 incidences involving police, and in the 4th one, I finally ended up in jail on remand status. I was very fortunate that I was only there just over a month, and again, I was fortunate that I had supports available to me through Veterans Affairs as a result of my time in Afghanistan. And when I got out, I did 2 months of residential treatment. And from there, I moved back to Winnipeg, realizing how inadequate the mental health supports are in the north. And so I came to Winnipeg and dove into the addictions community, and made a lot of positive supports, really wrapped those support systems around myself. Got heavily involved in volunteerism, and that kind of, it's not like I decided to go out and volunteer. It actually just the way things unfolded. I needed a place to stay, and my relative of mine, he was involved with Winnipeg's Bear Clan Patrol, so they're out walking the streets. And back then, it was just in the one neighborhood in the North End, and so very grassroots and very small organization at the time. And he introduced me to James Favel and his mother, Janet Ross, and Janet ended up giving me a place to stay. And these 2 people were complete strangers to me, and the compassion that they showed me was life-changing. Naturally, I started to volunteer with Winnipeg's Bear Clan Patrol, and it was getting involved with that organization, surrounding myself with positive people, doing positive things, engaging with the community in a positive way. That it was character development all the way, completely reinventing myself. And that's what kind of got my eyes set on program development. I wanted to create something that was that would give back to those that struggled in a similar way I did, with involvement in the criminal justice system, knowing what it's like to be stuck in that cycle and wanting to break free of it, and not having adequate support. I noticed there's a lot of that in that short time that I was in jail on remand status. I seen a lot of men in there that wanted to turn their lives around, but and they were dead set on doing it. And later I'd find out that a lot of them were back out there or back in there. And so that was really the driving force that made me want to contribute to something bigger. And a year after my sobriety date, I was involved in an incident on a bus where a man brandished a knife, and I got up and I intervened. I managed to disarm and detain him. However, I was stabbed in the process. It was what I had learned through restorative justice that gave me a different lens on the situation, where the public was more focused on the hero story. I saw the hero story as very problematic, and I saw that, you know, with every hero story, you got the bad guy and the hero, and everyone focuses on that good guy, and nobody really asks questions about that, who that bad guy is. And so I wanted to start asking those questions. Later did the TEDx that was mentioned, acknowledge the story behind the label, and managed to intervene in this gentleman's court process, and which was pushed to a sentencing circle, and we were able to get him his sentence reduced 3 years from the Crown wanting a 6-year sentence to a 3-year sentence, and he's out now. We've become like brothers, and we look after each other, and I'm just very grateful to be on his healing journey, and be working towards building this organization up. We've been active for just over a year now. We've had some growing pains, but we see that the work is much needed. We need more supports out there for men that want to turn their lives around. It's important to our communities. If we're not healing, a lot of the times we're contributing to the problems out there. So it's important for us as men to stop pointing the finger outwards and start pointing it inwards, and finding where we do have power to look after ourselves and look at ourselves with deep introspection and move towards our own healing.
Wow. Thank you, Jonathan. And again, I definitely, we want to talk more about strength in the circle. And there, I see a common thread, and this takes me to my next guest, Charlene, because Charlene holds so much knowledge and wisdom. But every one of you spoke of people that were important in your life, that it was the impetus to get you to where you are today. And Charlene.
Bonjour, fancy.
Yes, I know. Fancy meeting you again. No, I mean, I had the pleasure of meeting Charlene before in another show that we do, and she brought so much to light on what an elder is. We asked the question because in the Indigenous culture, the elders, the knowledge keepers, are the ones that people look towards to. And judging by these 3 incredible stories and these 3 incredible people, perhaps we can all be an elder or someone to shed light on people that are dealing with mental health issues.
Yes, well, hello, everyone. My name that I was given is Charlene, and but I like to use my traditional name, which is Kigetukinyukwe, and that's Talking Eagle Woman. I'm from the Wolf Clan. I'm a turtle warrior, and my father is Cree descent, Meikle, and my mom was she came over from the Ukraine. I was born into a blended family. So when my mom met my father, she had 4 children, and my father had 4 children, and then they had me. So I'm really the only one from them, but I have my siblings, and I grew up believe like they're my siblings. I don't say hi half sister or hi half brother. They're my brother or sister. I want to acknowledge the platform here. Just a lot of strong stories, uh, strengths, gifts. That's what I was hearing as the guests were talking. And I do know Johnny. Actually, I was going to come to you. You know, my mom, my Belinda. Belinda Vanderbroek's an elder in our community, very strong elders, residential school survivor, and she had adopted me through the ceremony in the sweat lodge. So, and we worked together for years and years and years. My ancestry comes from York Factory Cree Nation, and I want to go there one day and see where my ancestors lived, and I've been doing that journey of finding who I, because I truly believe it's very important to know who you are and where you come from. So I too struggled as a young girl. I was sexually abused from the age of 5 till 9, and grew up in a house of alcoholism, drugs, violence, and by the time I was 12, I was already out there on the street and using drugs, and it just continued to get worse after that. And that many years ago, there wasn't a lot of resources at all. um, and coming from the home that I came from, my mother was, you know, very staunch in how we carried ourselves. And, you know, when I look back now, and I've been able to um, come through a lot of those things, depression, anxiety. I had a very, at the age of 17, I was pregnant. So I was a single mom. And I have 4 children, who I'm very, very proud and happy for, and blessed, very blessed that I have my children. However, through that time in my life, there was incidences that were going on, which I didn't really understand what was going on for me. I didn't know that I get emotional. I didn't know that I was suffering from these things, and I didn't really ask about it. And so I just lived, basically, and tried to live my life. However, lots of things happened. By the time I had my 4 children, and I was in my late 30s, I got very, 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 very hooked on drugs. Cocaine was, cocaine and crack was my drug, and alcohol. It's all in there all together. And my children, my 2 little children were taken by child welfare, and my older 2 children, they were with their father in BC. And they were there for 5 years, and my little ones came to be with me because I went to treatment. And I stayed in the treatment center for 16 and a half months. And there I educated myself. I got my grade 12. I then went into volunteering and giving my time back into the treatment center. And through that, I got a job helping the young girls there and the women. And then I went on to social work and got my bachelor's social work degree. And I was clean and sober for 20 years, and something really huge and big happened for me. My son was in some trouble and ended up going into the institution, and he was there for 13 years. So I took a turn that I didn't even see coming. And I went into a very deep, deep, dark place. And thank goodness I had my culture, my traditions. I had elders around me that I that I used, and I went to this whole thing about mental health and depression, anxiety, and all of that was like not talked about as I was growing up. And so I never talked about it. I never talked about anything until I went into treatment and it started to understand. And I started to look at my family and especially my mother and father, to understand where they came from and, why they were the way they are or were. And so I did a lot of that, a lot of soul searching, a lot of healing. And I stayed away for a little while to take care of myself. I think it was Krishna was saying that, you go into a really dark, I could really understand what he was saying when he talked about that, and not coming out of your house and not, I mean, even after when I started to look after my mental health and started to look at my wheel, because like I said on the other show I was on, I said that doesn't matter where we're from, doesn't matter what color we are, we all have a spiritual, a mental, a physical, and psychological being, a mind of our own, right? We all have that, doesn't matter where we're from. And so it is our responsibility to take care of that. And I mean, there's lots of things that interrupted my healing in certain situations. And so I began to know that I had to really take care of myself, because I was the only one that could take care of myself. No one else. I mean, there's people that, enhance me, but at the end of the day, I take care of me. And so I started to look into that. And one of the things that really helped me was going into the sweat lodges, going in sweat lodge and Sundance. One of our ceremonies, a very sacred ceremony, was Sundance. And that's where, um, you know, I got a lot of strength from there as well as, having that, um, I call them my cheerleaders, um, just a group of friends that are very close to me. I don't have a whole lot of friends, but the ones that I do have are one in a million, and I thank Creator for that. And they helped me too. And so, growing up, I grew up in the North End. That's where I was born and raised. I grew up there. A lot of things, happened in my family that I'm sure all of us kids were. Not sure, I know all of us kids were affected by it, and in different ways, right? And how we dealt with it, and I can see it. I can see it like within my sisters and brothers now, when I look at them and see, some of them didn't take care of themselves, and so they're still suffering, and um, it's just when you're dealing with something like that, it's very hard to explain, because when you're dealing with something like that and you tell somebody, come on, just get over it, like, just come on, lighten up, like, but it's not like that. It's not like that. And it almost feels like there is, but it almost feels like, I don't know how to explain it. Then you feel like there's a total different brain in your head, and you just don't know, like, what happened, because I thought I was doing fine, and then living my life and doing my thing. And when these situations happen, and the trauma, one of the things that I really, really study is trauma, because you don't know how that affects you, and even your body. Your body, you hold those things in your body. You're talking about working out again. Our body has memory, and if just when you're talking about going back into the gym and everything, that's body memory, and our bodies carry those things. We carry those things within our body. Our people knew that long time ago, of working with energy and working with, moving the stuff through your body, right? Because it sits there. And what happens is it becomes a dis-ease, right? And so you got to find a way to move that, and move it through your body. And I mean, there's numerous ways today that we we can get help, and we can move those things through ourselves. And we're like, I mean, look at right now for me. I just want to share and be truthful. To be on here today, I I must have thought about canceling about 5 times because of the way I was feeling and because of what's happening in our community and for our people, right? And I'm glad I didn't because I worked through it. I just said, you know, you're going to get through it. And this needs to be talked about, and this needs to be shared, and this needs to be really taken serious. You know, it's not like a tipped over spilt cup of milk. We're talking about 215 bodies that were found, you know, and then just today there's 174 found in Brandon, and then in Saskatchewan, and they're going to pop up. They're going to continue to pop up. So I think about like all of the people that went through that, you know, and like my great grandmother. I think about the people that are still here and that are having to, you know, those memories and that trauma pop up again for them. And I just can't believe that, you know, in 2021, we're still talking about this and we're still shaming people for it and blaming people for it and making it like it's nothing, you know. But it is, and the conversation has to happen. So I'm grateful that we can have this platform to do so, and also, you know, having the place like, you know, our space that we went to the legislative building where we could, you know, begin that grieving and acknowledgement and accountability and all of that. You know, I'm a singer, traditional singer, so it really helped me yesterday to go and sing and to let go there on the grounds and say my prayers. So yeah, growing up, it for me, it had a huge effect on me and with my children, what I wanted to share, because I, like Johnny there, my mother's white, so my mother's Ukrainian, my father's French Métis, a French Cree. And so I didn't really get like a lot of racial tones, like in the form of color, right? For me, I could fit in both spaces, right? Um, but my children did. My children got it, and they were called all kinds of names. Um, you know, and as a mom, I didn't know that my oldest son, some of the things that he was going through, I just found out now. You know that, and I didn't even know that when he was like 11, 12, 13. I didn't know he was going through that, and he didn't share that with me, you know. So what does that do to his mental health? You know what I mean? Being in prison, what does that do to mental health? You know, it's not a good place to be. And all of the things that we like, COVID, that's not good for mental health. You know, plays on your psyche. Um, and then all of the things that I mean, coming to, you talk about the newcomers coming to a country, you know, yesterday we had a conversation around the fire about that. And, you know, everybody wants to come to Canada because Canada's a beautiful place. It's open, freedom, this, that, you know, but when you start to dig deep, Canada doesn't have a very good history. Canada doesn't have a good name right now. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. And that's truth. And so, you know, we said, like, who would want to come here? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure there's other places that are very worse off. I totally get that. But I guess, you know, part of our grieving through this and our pain through this is that Canada's not a very, very nice place in our minds right now in the Indigenous community. And well, it never really was, but in saying that, you know, what do we, just like I said yesterday, what do we do? What do we do next? What do we do about this? What do we do about in 2021? You're watching a hockey game right now, and the next day you hear all these horrible, horrific things, and it's one person on that team, and it happens to be the Indigenous man. You know, how to, like, it blows my mind that we're still here, and our my grandchildren have to, see this and hear these things. Thank goodness my daughter's, you know, person that she is, and she can teach him in her loving, kind way. But those things play on us, and they continue to play on us. They continue to play on our culture, on our communities. And so, yeah, what do you do?
Well, that's such a great question that probably would be another show. I do have a quick question from our viewer, and it spills a little bit onto Charlene on what you're saying. COVID has not helped anybody. So to Mariko and Krishna and Johnny, what does one do during this time of COVID and restrictions and isolation if they can't reach out to someone for support? Mariko or Johnny?
I was. That is a very good question. I know that COVID was hard for anyone has difficulty with their mental health, especially with autism. I would say that to get support, to find to ask either your to find a mental health help at your workplace, because I know my government place they're offering like services to help you better. That's what I'm doing right now. Or to ask either your employment consultant or either your friends or family to get to provide you good resource for your mental health.
Chris?
Yeah. So probably a great thing is to look at what your passions are. Is there anything that you can do in an environment where you're at home that you can still find like who you are and have that expressed? So some people it's music, some people it's drawing. For me, I used to be really into art, and it made me have like something where I connected with something. Some people it's the type of music they want to listen to, even to be a part of that. Or maybe you have an old series of TV shows that you used to watch when you're a kid, and it brings you back to a good place. There's all these different things that we can do. Of course, letting your doctor know, number one, is probably the most important thing, so that they can keep an eye on you. For me, exercise, especially when you do cardio, like I'm not saying you have to go for a run or anything like that. If you're able to go for a walk or get on a bike, those things actually help in your body and move things around and get the endorphins going. So it gives you a feel good, like I've accomplished something. It gets you outside too, in a different environment than where you're kind of cooped up at the time. For me, I like playing video games and working out. So I've been a little lazy with the workouts lately because of some of the projects, but it's also an opportunity to reconnect with old friends that maybe are in the same situation. And or reach out to people who meant something to you. Maybe you had a teacher that when you were younger, they really helped, and you just want to say thanks. It might make you feel good too to do that, and the other person gets a benefit. So there's those kind of things that I think could be helpful.
Oh, most definitely. And Jonathan, especially for people in a crisis situation.
Yeah. Well, I want to go off of what Charlene was saying earlier. Take a look at that medicine wheel, the emotions, the spiritual, the mental, and the physical, and kind of draw that out and look at each area and see if you have balance, and where you're lacking in certain areas. Ask yourself, well, what can I be doing? One thing I think a lot of people struggle to work on is mindfulness, sitting with ourselves, or anxiety seems to be one of the biggest issues out there, anxiety and depression. And I think that those are things that could be that can be helped with practicing mindfulness, so meditation, treating your mind like a muscle, and you can work it out. Start with 3 minutes of meditation, and increase as you go, and it gets easier and easier, and that'll help you focus. That'll help to learn about yourself, analyze your emotions, work on emotional intelligence, connect with spirituality. I really love what a lot of the things that Charlene was saying. Move to ceremony, and ceremony doesn't have to be out there. Ceremony can be right in your backyard, right inside your house. I have a smudge bowl sitting in front of me, and ceremony can be prayer. At the end of the day, ceremony is how you walk through this world, and it's how you become that walking prayer. Those things that you pray for is how you eventually want to be walking in that way. So yeah, really, to sum it all up, balance in all four of those areas. And I'll go off of what Christy said.
Krishna, sorry, I got my wife's name on the my wife's name's on the thing somehow. Sorry.
Physical fitness and diet. Those have been two big things I've been really working on, and getting out there, running, doing workouts outside, enjoying the sunny weather, and so balance again, in all four quadrants.
There's an exercise that I used to do with the youth when I worked with youth, and I used to get them to draw out the wheel, and then I would put like the quadrants, right? The spiritual, the emotional, physical, mental, and then I would put from 1 to 10, and I would say, well, how do you feel in your spiritual, and a lot of youth, they, well, what's that? What's spirit? So I, tell them give them a definition of what that is. And so they put their number, and it was a really good way to really see, how you are off balance sometimes, because sometimes you're really, really good here, right? But here you're just like, I don't want to do nothing. I'll just sit down. So it varies, right? And it shows you that actually shows you like where you need to kind of pick it up a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really important. The key for me is balance. For me, it's balance, right? If I'm off balance somewhere, then I really have to check myself. And that's another thing, checking in with yourself, checking in with yourself, making sure, like, I don't leave here without smudging myself. I don't leave here. I had a smudge while we were starting, I lit the smudge, that's important for me.
No,
And
it definitely is.
yeah. And finding, even like for the other thing that I use is like a grandmother. I carry a grandmother with me. So when I start feeling a little bit, off, or, I'll hold that grandmother and I'll just pray.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer is really, really huge as
Yes,
well.
definitely.
It's very, very huge. So yeah.
So I have just a last little bit of round of questions, because I would continue talking all night, but I know people want to watch the Jets game. But no, for you, Mariko, what's the one thing that people most often misunderstood about you living with autism?
That is a very good question. I think it's a couple aspects. My point of view is different, because when it's, for example, it's kind of friendship, when it's faith, is when it's faithfully, it's honesty. I've been like bullied by people who weren't okay with me because of it, and it was made me feel very depressed, and because it was hurtful, be bullied, what you call backstab, and what is because I don't follow the trends of the millennials. Like, I'm also living on my own with a lot of stuffed animals. Why not? Because I'm not living with roommates. I'm just living on my own, and that's okay. Just to ask, as like Sherry's doing, to take care of myself, because I've been through a lot. Just to take care of myself, and to take my time to make good personal decisions. And also, I sometimes feel judged. Like this last week, I've been judged by a couple old people. They're like, "Oh, you don't have a boyfriend, yeah? Oh, you're so quiet." It's not like it's. Look, they have allowed their opinion, but I'm allowed to live my own life, whatever I want. Like as I already said, there's always good thing for everyone. A lot of other good things always come to me. So, and most another under the misunderstanding, and also another misunderstanding is a lot of people think that autism is still people, like Dustin Hoffman from Raymond, they still thinking the same. All the fashion is not the same as before. Like many autistic people are not the same. Like that's me. If you know the word divergent, well, divergent. You know this word. There's the word diverse, and diverse is called diversity. So we're all a diversity because we're allowed to like whatever we like. We're allowed to react whatever we want. We don't need to follow what people do. We don't need to follow what the society, the millennials do. Like I never been the person. Even as I can always reject it, always do whatever I want without following the trends of the society. And the last thing is because not every woman or not even the number of autistic women is increasing more and more. Just as to have misunderstanding prejudices, because a lot of people think most men are disabled, even autistic. Because they used to have more men compared to women, but now it's equal.
Wow.
Like
Good.
yeah, the number of autistic women is increasing. Even the research I developed, even we hear a lot, even on Netflix with Love on the Spectrum. I feel it's hurtful to see all these images of autistic. They don't like being loved, or they have no social interaction. They have no day experience. It's not fair to say because I did get bad dating experiences. I do have social life, but not everyone's perfect because we're allowed to make mistakes as human. As like everybody, we autistic, we're all human. We're allowed
We're all
to make
human.
mistakes.
Well, they haven't met you yet, so I mean, you're going to be a huge star and a huge inspiration. For you, Krishna,
Thank you.
maybe let's talk about identity. And it's interesting because all four of you are from a mixed background. And do you feel, because I mean, Charlene and definitely Jonathan spoke about identity. Did you feel the same way too? And did that have maybe any kind of emotional impact on you becoming schizophrenic?
I think so. So I came from I would find it kind of a different background, that's for sure. So I guess my mother you call Canada, but originally from India. It was very different. So being half East Indian, I wasn't considered East Indian. And even to this day, I'm not considered East Indian. Being half white, but also being half East Indian, I'm not always considered white. So I kind of had nothing. My identity was really made because I was very athletic. So my identity in school was not East Indian or white or whatever. It was like, this guy's the best athlete. So I had to define myself in a weird way where I didn't really have either culture. I didn't fit into either of them. So, but I could relate to other people who were in each culture, if that made sense, but I wasn't accepted by either. And I still kind of find that nowadays a little bit, unfortunately, but I don't think it's purposely done by people. I really don't. I don't think it's an intentional thing. I think it's just one of those deeply rooted thing that if you're from a certain culture, I guess, where you're from, then the parents kind of all think that or whatever. I don't think they, have any bad intention on it. But I would say, yeah, it did affect who I was and how I identified myself. To add on top of that, I was in an obscure religion on my mother's side, Jehovah's Witness, where in that culture, it was a little bit different too in the way the belief system was. So I really didn't fit in very well at school or things like that, other than being really good at sports. So it took a long time to kind of find out like who I am, what I'm good at. And when I got into bodybuilding and I met a fellow named, his name is Henry, he introduced me into bodybuilding. He's like, you have really good genetics. Why don't you like do this stuff, right? So, and I really didn't know much about it, but I was really athletic and I had a nice build. And so he showed me how to train and diet, and that kind of established, the person you kind of meet now. It was really based on just people outside these communities, So like we really are, like the human race is a community.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you fit into one or not, we're all together, no matter what people like to say or don't like to say. It's like having that, maybe in some families or in some circles, you may have like a nationality that some people don't favor, but we're still part of the same family. It's like having that person in the family that maybe someone doesn't care for or whatever, but we got to still be, as a human race, a family. And your identity isn't defined, I don't think, so much by what other people say. It's by what you do. So if you're a good person, you do the right things, you make the right decisions, you represent your cultures properly then, and humanity properly. So that's kind of my feeling on it. But yeah, I would say when I was young, yeah, it definitely felt like I didn't belong anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Jonathan, loneliness. It can tear a person apart. It can definitely lead to mental health issues. How did you, or have you ever experienced the depth of loneliness?
Yeah. Like coming into recovery, moving away from substance, it's more about learning how to live, not so much about putting the substance down. That was just the symptom. I was looking deep and seeing how Johnny ticks is what brought me to a better place. And when looking at myself, looking at my childhood development, I realized that I felt quite ostracized. I felt quite alone in my early childhood, and as a result, I wanted to be seen and wanted to be heard, and that would come out even when I got involved with drugs. I was the loudest in the room. I wanted to be feared. I wanted that sense of false pride. So when having this void inside of me, it was like I was trying to fill it with all the wrong things. So coming into recovery, I need to look at that and figure out, okay, I've been filling this void inside of me with the wrong things. I need to figure out, well, what are the right things, and what are those things that are going to keep tearing away at me, and so I think for me it was looking at that medicine wheel that we talked about, and doing that work, and looking at the deeper stuff of what negative experiences I've gone through in life, and processing them and reaching out for help to do so, connecting with community. And so I know right now is a tough time to do so, but there are means. I think it's important that if we're struggling, we need to take those baby steps towards connection with others, because I personally am a product of my community being there for me, for those around me. I didn't get here on my own. I didn't change my life around on my own. It was me that made the decision, but I was reaching out for help that got me to where I am, and I'm grateful today.
And so people or men can connect with you at Strength in the Circle then, especially in these trying times. Yeah, we have the website up. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Charlene, you get the $64,000 question to end off the show. If you had one wish to change our current mental health system to be more attentive and more empathetic to Indigenous and newcomer communities, what would you suggest?
Well, what would I suggest? If I had one wish, I wish that we could end that and that we could look into a lens of not of color and creed and all of that, but with kindness and love and gifts and honor. You know, one of the things that I said yesterday too is and it stuck with me, is that I'm a big fan of Dr. Garbro Mate. Huge fan. I think I'm his really #1 fan. But he said that with all the people that have mental health, whether it's PTSD, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, whatever it is, to society, they look abnormal. We look abnormal, right? But really and truly, society is abnormal, and we have special gifts and special talents that we've been given. It takes a lot to come from a dark place and to come up from there. I give all of us here today, kudos for that, for struggling through those things, for this young woman right here and her story, that all of us, for the stories that you shared and the things that you've come out of and come forth to. You know, that takes a lot of strength. Loneliness, to be in, I understand that when you talk about loneliness, you know, I remember at a time in my life where I literally went into the shower and sat there while the shower just sprayed on me and screamed for this to leave and for me to be normal. What is normal? I am normal. So I think that we have to start changing the lens, and that we have to, if I could have a wish, that we'd live in a place where we could feel that. We could feel loved no matter who you were, no matter where you came from, and just, you know, explore the gifts, explore the different nationalities, explore the different foods, explore the different culture, the teachings, all of that. We all have them. We were all born with them. So let us show them and let us share them. And in that note, Johnny, we need to talk.
Well, I want to thank you all, Mariko, Krishna, Jonathan, and especially Charlene, of course. Charlene it's just been a truly amazing evening. And let us move forward together.
Yes.
Because
yes.
I feel like we're all in this together, truly.
Just so you all know, it's 3-1 for the Canadians.
I want to thank Immigration Partnership Winnipeg and Knowledge Keeper Clayton Sandy, the co-creators of Healing Hearts, my special guest tonight. And for all of you out there, stay safe and stay healthy. And we'll see you next time on Healing Hearts.